Okay, so we'll go into Chapter 23 homework now. So we click on Section 3 from Mind tab, go down to Chapter 23, and the homework's actually opened up. So remember, we're going to do the counts towards grade. We'll click on that, and let's open this up and see what we have here. Okay, so we have, I think, 6 questions here. So we'll start off with question number 1. So this is still using aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So it reads, the first question says, the chapter suggests the economy, like the human body, has natural restorative powers. So it says, illustrate the short-run effect of a rise in aggregate demand. So what you want to do, a rise in aggregate demand, is implying that there's a, we'll just do this one, there's going to be an increase in your aggregate demand. So it means it will shift to the right. And the first thing that you want to notice here is what happens to output and price level. So output will increase and our price level will increase. But you want to keep in mind that in the short run, when we draw our short run aggregate supply curve, we're holding nominal wages constant. So when the price level increases, what actually happens is people's wages haven't changed in the short run. And so when the price level, meaning everything goes up in price, increases, this means that people's real wages, what they can purchase with $1, has declined. So ultimately, over time, what is going to happen is people will start requesting a higher wage. And so ultimately, it will cause our aggregate short-run supply curve to shift to the left, which will indicate that costs of production have actually now gone up. Why? Because people will now have higher nominal wages. So what you'll want to do here is then kind of go over what is going to occur in this situation. And I think you should be able to do that. So we'll continue on. It's a good question to review, by the way. Okay, we'll continue on. Oh, just ignore that. Okay, question number 2. It's a true-false, so always be careful with these true-false. So it says, policymakers who want to stabilize the economy must decide how much to change the money supply, government spending, or taxes. It's a good question. Remember, it's not easy. You know, we've been talking about this in class, but none of this is easy to do. So the true-false question reads, one of the reasons why it's difficult for policymakers to choose the appropriate strength of their actions is that impact of a change in policy on aggregate demand is often too fast. Now notice it says too fast. So when you're answering this question, think about the discussion that we've had about the lags or the time it takes for when the Federal Reserve makes a policy change or when the federal government changes government spending or taxes. Is that an immediate change or are there lags? So keep that in mind when you're answering this one. Okay, we'll continue on. Okay, question 3. Again, always, be sure to read these a couple times when they're the fill-in. So the question reads, the problem of time inconsistency applies to fiscal policy as well as to monetary policy. So this is a continuation. Good reminders for, some of the problems that we encounter with changes in the money supply and changes in government spending and taxes. So then it reads, suppose the government announced a reduction in taxes on income from capital investments, so like new factories. So they're giving tax reductions if you build a new factory, is basically what that says. So it then asks, if investors believed that capital taxes would remain low, the government's actions would result in a blank, larger or smaller capital stock. So you can think of this as more or less factories would be built. So I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. Then it says, after investors have responded to the announced tax reduction, the government can get more tax revenue by either increasing or decreasing taxes on income from capital investments. I think, again, you should be able to answer that. And then the next part says, given your answers to the previous part, investors would not believe the government's announcement. So you might be like, well, what is this saying? So notice what it says. Given your answer to the previous part, investors would not believe the government's announcement. So there's kind of a contradiction here. On the one hand, the government is saying, okay, we're going to give you, this tax cut to build more factories. And then in the next case, they're saying we're going to increase your tax revenue on these investments that you've just made. So if you were the firm, would you have much faith in what the government's doing with policy if they do this? So I would approach it in that manner. Okay, question 4. So these are good review, quick questions, but you have to have a lot of understanding here. So these are really good practice questions for exam. All right, 4 says, in the debate about whether the central bank should aim for zero inflation, which of the following areas of disagreement involve positive statements? So quick reminder on positive statements. Positive means something that we can back up. So remember, it doesn't mean it's factual. It just means we can back it up with some sort of evidence. That's what positive. So in essence, which of the following in this case here would be positive statements based on what you're told here? This one asks, which of the following policies redistribute income from young to old generations? So on this particular question, you really got to just kind of read through each individual one. So this is kind of centering on a couple different issues here. So again, it asks you which policies would redistribute income from young to old generations, and you want to check all that would apply. So if we increase the budget deficit today, that means the government is spending more money today than the tax revenue they're bringing in. But ultimately, someone down the road is going to have to pay for this. So I think that kind of gives you your answer there. An increase in Social Security benefits. So remember, Social Security benefits, we all pay into Social Security if you're working and you have a paycheck. So a certain portion of your money is put aside into the Social Security benefit. And when you reach retirement age, which is 67 currently for most people, you can then pull on your Social Security benefits. It's like a pension plan from the government that you've paid into. So if we increase Social Security benefits to those people today, what's going to happen to people in the future? And then the next two, more generous subsidies for education loans, greater investments in highways and bridges. So again, this question is asking about policies that would redistribute income from young to old generations. So be careful on those last two that you're given. Okay, so let's see. This question is true, false. So be careful. Well, the true, false says the government can increase national saving by revising tax laws. So national savings, what do you think? Can they increase their national savings if they revise tax laws? And I think you'd be able to answer that one.